Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to Listen Up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
Ryan, before we came on, I told you I would have to do this. I'm afraid I'm going to have to do it now that you hit record. Start spreading the news. Ryan's on his way. Ryan, you have 6 weeks, bud. 6 weeks. How do you feel about that just in and of itself? 6 weeks and the WNBA playoffs are wrapping up. UConn Huskies women's basketball. We have the talk right here. Ryan, the Big East basketball schedule is out. You're going to tell everybody what they need to know. Oh, my goodness. Talk about crunch time. The question is, how are you feeling?
Yeah, definitely, definitely feeling better this week. We wanted to come on earlier, but I was ill, and then it seems like we've been having a little bit of opposite schedules. But I'm glad we're able to come on this Saturday and get into the completion of UConn's schedule. Yeah, but WNBA big night last night. I'm sure most of you guys watched both of those games. Unfortunately, my Dallas Wings fell all three games to the Las Vegas Aces. No, not really a surprise there, but I think as most people expected, it's going to be the Liberty and Aces probably back in the finals. So that should be a fun series when we get there. But yeah, I mean that Maryland game that we're going to be going to November 16th at Gamble Pavilion. You said it's on FS1. And they released the time, which is at 6:30. So the nightcapper. I know we're both still really looking forward to that one. But let's get into the Big East schedule for this year a little bit. A little change to the schedule this season. UConn's only playing 18 games instead of the usual 20. Playing Butler and Xavier only once instead of twice this year. But Huskies will begin their Big East play on December 18th and try to win the Big East crown for the fourth straight year. Last year, of course, only winning the regular season title by only just one game over the Villanova Wildcats. Competition seems to be getting a little better, a little better competition, slowly improving each and every year for the other Big East opponents that UConn faces. But I think this year UConn will get back to their usual ways of winning in the Big East in the regular season title. I think they're probably going to win the Big East title by a healthier amount this season and not just one game. But of course, there is some big departures. The Villanova Wildcats losing Maddie Siegrist. That's a huge loss for them. Of course, Villanova still has a pretty good lineup. Maddie Burke, Bella Runyon, Brooke Mullen, Lucy Olson, Christina Dulce. But I don't think they're going to reach the 30 win mark again this season. Creighton Blue Jays, I think they're probably the other team that I'm kind of circling and watching out for this season. I think they're probably going to finish above Villanova. That's kind of my prediction for this year. But Creighton, very, very experienced team, having two seniors, six juniors, Rachel Saunders, Carly Batchelor, Emma Ronsick. She's been a pretty good forward inside for them for a couple years now. Molly Jensen, Morgan Malley, Lauren Jensen. I mean, all these players, Mallory Blake as well, all these players for the Blue Jays are looking to have a pretty big impact for them. But like I said, I don't think UConn's going to really struggle a lot to win this conference. I think Creighton and Villanova are the two teams kind of look out for when they play them in January and February. But I think there's definitely going to be some competitive games, of course, with the other opponents, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of competitive games that UConn plays as well within the conference.
Yeah, you said it right. I appreciate that, Ryan, because when you talk about within the Big East conference by itself, we have a lot of change, right? Since you and I have started this podcast, and we appreciate again everyone, and we love each and every one of you. But Ryan, the new coaches. How about the new coaches that came into the Big East? And
Yeah.
then we want to talk about avenging historic losses, like our great CT insider, our great sources have the information that they've brought us over and over again this off season. But Ryan, what do you take away? Because I know back in the and then of course, like you mentioned, the notable departures uh, with DePaul losing its top two scorers, Morrow and Rogers, uh, and then also starter Kendall Holmes went into the to the transfer portal. So with that said, what is your take on this? Because I know last episode I specifically brought up the fact, I mean, usually Ryan, the Huskies dominate and finish in first place by let's say 10 games or more. I mean, I'm just throwing out a number, but at the end of the day, it was pretty darn close. So, but when you look under the column, when she brought up avenging historic losses, and that's Maggie Benoni, we can't forget. How can we forget? I mean, I know, I get it. I mean, our subs want to forget, but I mean, it's hard to, Ryan. So how do you see that shaking out? Because last season you had 59-52 loss at Marquette on February 8th. You remember that. Later that month, St. John's, I was on the road, Ryan. St. John's beat UConn 69-64, February 21st. You remember that. And no one can forget Villanova's stunning 72-69 upset over UConn. So, Ryan, it hasn't been, UConn has last swept the conference playoffs, 20-21, going 18-0. So, what's your take on that? I mean, you remember that as well as I do, or anyone else.
Yeah, I think last year it was obviously, I mean, the past 2 years have been pretty rough when we've been covering this team, but I think last year specifically was definitely pretty tough. With I believe one of those games, I'm pretty sure it was last year that got postponed because UConn only had, I think, 6 healthy players. They were under the limit, so there's definitely been a lot of obstacles. And losing to St. John's was pretty rough, and Marquette, uh, and Villanova as well. Like you mentioned, all those teams.
And do you mind just very quickly if I just stop you right there just for a second? I just want to bring up, now that we're on this topic, I know I said, and that was kind of my mistake, I said about UConn lacking size. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, in a way, but Ryan, can't you also, and again, sorry to cut you off, you can finish. I know I saw some comments where they were kind of, mad at what I was saying about the size. Ryan, let's go ahead and admit, obviously, you said that last couple of seasons have been rough. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to use injuries as an excuse, but yes, I will go ahead and say the number one reason, obviously, injuries. It's not size.
Yeah, and I think Creighton has given UConn a couple good games in the past years too, and that's why I'm definitely circling them this year because of their they have a lot of seniors and juniors, so very experienced team. But I think this year, I think UConn, we're kind of hoping and just expecting that this team can stay healthy and get healthy for the majority of the season. There's a lot of depth, but there was a lot of depth last year as well that we were looking forward to. And unfortunately, I don't think we truly got to see that at its full potential. So I hope this year that we get to see a lot more depth. And I think we have some very exciting freshmen that we've been fortunate to see in Europe and kind of practicing through the summer, and now get it into the fall season, of course. But yeah, I mean, I definitely expect UConn to not have as much trouble and definitely not only win by one game. I hope they can avenge a couple of those losses. But I still think some of these games, because of the Big East getting better each and every season, I think some of these games are definitely not a pushover.
Comment time on Listen Up. Jason D'Amico, you guys rock. I will try and make the game if I can. Here is a question for you. Will Geno retire when Paige and AZ leave? Peace, fellas.
I think we've kind of hinted at that before and kind of talked about it a little bit. It's definitely an interesting topic to kind of figure out and predict when Geno's time is going to be up. And I would probably assume as well, Chris Daly, she came in with Geno. I would assume that she's going to leave with Geno as well. Of course, that day is going to probably be one of the saddest days that we're going to be covering this team. So, but I don't think it's really going to be anytime soon. It doesn't really seem like that. Of course, we have to remember as well, though, that Geno last year, I believe he was a little ill as well, and of course losing his mother. So Geno also had some tribulations that he had to go through last year, and definitely a couple obstacles in his life that he had to overcome. So last year and the other year as well, this team is kind of been a mess to really sum it up. But it definitely is a good question because I know Geno is definitely excited to bring Paige Beckers to UConn and definitely expecting big things. Unfortunately, didn't get to show those off last year, but of course, we're all hoping that she gets to show off her talents again. So it's definitely going to be a question that I don't think anybody really will know the answer to until Geno gives us that announcement.
Lindsay Matthews, we haven't seen this name for a while. We're glad that she's back with us. Hi, guys. I know I speak for a huge number of UConn fans when I say we're counting the days until the season starts. We're all waiting for November 10th to get us quickly into the season. Hooray. Thank you so much for your show. We UConn fans need you.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of talked about that a little bit behind the scenes as well, how the coverage of women's basketball, we hope that it soon gets bigger. And I think we're both so grateful to have this show and able to cover the UConn Huskies and grateful for everybody to that watches and listens and kind of supports us. And we hope that all the teams can get a lot of coverage and at the collegiate level and at the professional level as well. But definitely expecting big things from UConn this season, and we'll definitely be here every step of the way.
How about this one? We haven't seen her in a while. Colleen Ziemba is back with us. Colleen, Ryan, she goes, UConn has a stronger schedule. Yeah, now that we're on the episode about the scheduling, Ryan, and just by the way, my prediction, I don't know about yours, Ryan, UConn will not lose a Big East game this year.
I think it's definitely a possibility. It's going to be tough. I don't know. I think they might drop one or
Ooh.
two. It's going to be tough. I'm really looking forward to watching those games against Villanova and Creighton. I think Marquette, St. John's. I don't think they'll be as tough this season. Marquette's probably going to be pretty good, but I'm definitely looking forward to those games against Creighton and Villanova. I think there's definitely, if they're going to lose one, it's probably going to be to those two teams. But I think they can go undefeated in the Big East, and through the whole season as well. It's definitely not going to be easy because looking at the schedule, we already went over their non-conference opponents. It's definitely not going to be easy for sure.
By the way, Colleen did not predict the undefeated Big East schedule. That was that was me. So you can put that pressure on me, Ryan. You don't have to put it on
Yeah.
Colleen. Adam Edmonds, last one. I think it's justified to give LSU the overall top seed considering they are the defending champs and had the number one overall recruiting class and the number one overall transfer class. On paper, they look great. However, I wonder if the media will give Geno a hard time for his old school approach and lack of activity in the portal if UConn doesn't knock them off.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the thing with Gino, and they really said it right there. I think just kind of his old school mentality of, he's not really used to this, new wave of transfer portal and kind of diving in to see all of the options. Of course, Lou Lopez Seneschal was a great find, but I think in terms of, getting all these big name players and the top three ranked, transfers that are moving all these places. I don't really think that's the wave that this UConn organization and Gino has ever, really looked to ride on and kind of went through with. So, their their system has worked pretty good, I'd say, for the time that Gino's been here. And don't fix it if it's not broke. So I think it's going to work out pretty well. Even though I think some people were disappointed that UConn didn't pick up the big names out of this year's transfer portal. But that's a question that I've been kind of hinting at and asking. I think it's definitely fair that LSU's number one, but can they back it up on the court?
Hey, very quickly, Ryan, I just think it's fitting before we leave for the weekend. Is that, correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologize in advance to our subs for jumping off topic, not UConn women's basketball talk. Are there some Orioles hats back there on the ledge behind you?
Yeah,
I wanted to
they're-
get your take on this quote. I just think it's fitting before we leave today. It's not how you start the season, it's how you finish. If you wind up helping the team make the playoffs, that's what you play for. You don't play to put up your numbers, but to try to get a chance to make it to the World Series.